magturo. Mga batang puno ng pangarap, ngunit kulang sa internet connection. Kaya sa utos ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr., kumilos ang Department of Information and Communications Technology at ang Department of Education para magkaroon ng internet ang mga paaralan sa mga liblib na lugar. Noong nakaraang linggo, dinayo ng Pangulo ang Island School sa Binuangan Elementary School sa Ubando, Bulacan para tingnan ang estado ng koneksyon. Nakita ng Pangulo, maayos na ang internet. May laptop at tablets na ngayon na dati mahirap makarating.
Kay Henry po.
Si Sec. Asa na si Emis mo yata nagkakabot eh.
Hi, Mr. President, Secretary. In Basilan, 189 schools na binigay sa aming assignment ni Seksani, 172 na yung nakakabit.
Dahil ang internet sa mga paaralan ay hindi lang basta signal, isa itong tulay para mas mapalapit ang kaalaman sa bawat silid-aralan. At sa bawat paaralang nakokonekta, may mga batang mas nabibigyan ng pag-asa.
Magkaroon lahat ng estudyante, magkaroon lahat ng guro ng kanilang kinakailangan na equipment at para maging mas maganda at mas maayos ang sistema natin sa pagtuturo.
Sa buong bansa, tuloy-tuloy ang trabaho. Isa-isang inaayos sa mga bagay na magpapagaan sa buhay ng ating mga kababayan. Para ang edukasyon ay mas maging abot kamay ng bawat batang Pilipino, anumang isla o lalawigan sa bansa.
Tinig ng Bayan! Tinig ng Bayan!
O si Maria Edita Manuel nakikisa sa energy conservation measures ng pamahalaan sa pamamagitan ng tamang paggamit sa kuryente. Ina-unplug ang mga appliances, kapag aalis, pinapatay ang mga ilaw pag hindi ginagamit. At kami po ngayon ay gumagamit na lamang po ng kahoy sa pagluluto para makatipid po sa kuryente at sa gasol. Kami rin po ay gumagamit na ng bisikleta pag kami ay pupunta ng bayan para makatipid sa paggamit ng gasolina.
Tinig ng Bayan! Tinig ng Bayan!
Agrikultura,
Teknolohiya,
pananalapi,
pananaliksik,
kwento ng pangarap at katuparan ng pagsubok.
at tagumpay at ng simpleng buhay.
Ito ang ating
Buhay!
Buhay Buhay!
Buhay! Buhay!
Ito ang aking malaparaisong bayan.
Okay mga kaibigan, good afternoon. Welcome po sa ating programang Buhay-Buhay. Ngayong araw po na ito ng Monday. Ang bilis talaga ng ating araw, ano?
Yes.
So mga kaibigan, happy Monday po sa ating lahat. Ito po si Lyzl Pilapil at syempre sa ating kasama dito ay narito si Val.
Yes, good afternoon sa ating mga tagapakinig at nanonood sa ating FB Live kasamang Lyzl.
Oo.
Ayan, happy tayo ngayon dahil kalahati na ng June ang araw na
sakto.
ito. Nangangalahati na tayo.
Nangalahati na tayo, pati yung
ang bilis
mga...
ng araw.
Oo, nangalahati na tayo pero yung iba pagkuha ng sweldo, buo agad. Tapos ubus na agad dahil maraming pwedeng mabili sa Baragatan.
Yes.
Ayan, nakadalaw ka na ba sa Baragatan, Val?
Yes, kasama Lyzl. Nag-ikot-ikot tayo dyan kasamang Lyzl. Isa yung mga nag-catch dyan sa aking eye ay yung ating mga booth ng mga LGU kasamang Lyzl. Maliban doon sa kanilang mga intricate na designs, talagang pinag-isipan at napaka-creative kasamang Lyzl.
Creative
Ayan,
nga,
doon talaga tayo
galing.
sa mga produktong ino-offer nila. Ayan, may mga nakita tayo doon. Yung kuratsa na sinasabi mo kasamang
Oo,
Lyzl.
600 pa rin ang
600
kilo.
per kilo kasama
Sa booth ng
Lyzl.
Araceli?
Ng Araceli,
Ayan,
yes.
oo.
Kung gusto po ninyo maka-avail ng kuratsa, mas maaga po, mas magandang pumunta kayo. Maliban dyan,
Natulala
ay-
yata tayo dun, ha? Oo, maliban doon, meron pa.
Ayan, maliban dyan, kasamang Lyzl, doon sa booth pa rin na Araceli, yun nga yung sinasabi natin, binabanggit natin last week na wakwak. Ayan, meron po dyan. At meron din kasamang Lyzl sa ibang booth yung bagoong, sukang tuba, kasoy sa Rojas,
Oo, ayan yung kasoy.
doon sa Kuyo, meron din
yung bandi,
kasoy.
no? Kagaya nung
May
daladala mo
bandi
nung
rin,
nakaraan,
yes.
oo.
May bandi ako nakita kasamang Lyzl sa Roja, siguro mga kasing laki siya ng ng
5 piso?
Hindi naman.
Mas malaki ng konti.
Nung baon ng niyog.
Ay, ang
Ayun,
laki.
mga ganun siya kalaki.
Oo.
100 pesos.
Ay, okay.
Ayun.
Kasoy.
Kasoy yun, kasamang
Sugurin
Lyzl.
nyo na
Bandi
yan.
siya. Ayan,
Oo.
marami rin roasted, honey glazed, brittle. So, iba-ibang variety siya ng kasoy. Ayan. So, napakaraming products kasamang Lyzl. Hindi lang doon sa mga pagkain. Meron din silang parang mga pwedeng souvenirs. Ganun.
Oo.
May nakita rin ako dyan mga honey na pure.
Ay,
So, ang
honey
dami
na
kasamang
pure, pero walang
Lyzl.
impure. Oo, so meron din honey doon. And
Yes,
also,
ang dami. Ang dami
Tapos ano
kasamang
ngayon
Lyzl.
yung hinahanap mo doon? Sana, no?
Ayun, na nabanggit na natin
Oo.
kanina, yung
Yung-
wakwak. Kaso nga
ay, yung
lang,
wakwak,
sold out
oo.
siya. Kasi nga, napakaraming kumakain din talaga
Ang dami
yan.
pala nakakakilala ng wakwak,
Mhm.
ano? Di ba kasi tayo alam na natin na wakwak yung manananggal ba?
Yes.
Hindi, pero yung wakwak yung sinasabi mo nga, gusto rin talaga naming matikman.
Yes. Bibili tayo dyan kapag ka meron na sila at nag-restock na sila ulit kasamang Lyzl.
Oo, tapos may nakita ako doon sa tawag dito sa isa sa mga vlog ng hindi ko maalala ko sino, pero parang meron yatang booth din doon na nagpapakita sila kung paano gumawa nung ba yung buki-buki ba yun?
Buti-buti.
Buti-buti. Sorry,
yes,
buki-buki
it's
tuloy.
sa booth
Buti-buti.
yun ng booth ng Kuyo. Ayan.
Okay.
Pinakita nila doon kung paano yung ginagawa kasamang Lyzl.
Oo. Tapos ano pala yun, ang galing kasi akala ko yung kung paano akala ko rice or whatever, pero palay pala mismo
Palay
yun.
siya. Yes.
Oo, palay, tas dinidikdik, no? Tapos lulutuin. Ako, ang galing nun. Gusto ko talagang
Yes.
makita. Tsaka gusto kong tikman yung pagkatapos niyang gawin.
Actually, ang daming
Oo.
nakatikim nun kasamang Lyzl. Nakita ko at panood
Free
ko rin
taste.
nga yun. Free taste yun. Ayun, nakakatuwa. Yan yata yung mga unang araw or mga second day.
Ngayon, wala na ba?
Ngayon, wala na ako nakita kasamang Lyzl.
Okay, yun pa naman sana yung gusto kong makita. Kasi nakakatuwa po yung way niya, no? Pag
Yes.
ginagawa yun. Tapos makikita mo doon, dito lang ba sa atin sa Palawan yan, yung buti-buti?
Ayan, ang alam ko dyan lang yan
Oo.
sa Kuyo kasamang
Sa Kuyo,
Lyzl. Sa
oo.
Kuyo lang talaga yan.
O kasi naalala ko din pala nung time na yan, meron din yung kapitbahay namin na kuyunin din sila. Nagbigay sila sa amin ng 2 balot na gano'n. So tapos biglang nung kinahapunan, nakita ko yung nakita ko nga yung reel, nakita ko yung vlog tungkol doon sa buti-buti. Kaya sabi ko magandang attraction sa booth yung may mga gano'n.
Yes.
Kasi 'di ba
Ayan.
din yan, tawag dito, contest din yung sa mga booth. Ayan. Tapos parang hindi lang basta itsura ng booth yata yung labanan
Yes.
doon. Kung hindi, ano pa yung ibang pwedeng makita doon sa booth
But
nila.
you can offer kasamang Lyzl sa inyong munisipyo the products, tourist destinations,
Yan,
yung mga crafts, arts and crafts, napakarami niyan dyan kasamang Lyzl. Nakakatuwa. Alam mo kasamang Lyzl, isa dun sa nag-catch talaga sa akin.
Oo.
Nakakuha sa aking attention, yung booth ng Coron, napakakulay. Ayan.
Oo. Anong kulay ng booth ng Coron?
Siya,
Sari-sari talaga, as in
sari-sari
parang
siya,
rainbow.
kulay siya ng ocean.
Oo.
Ganon. Yung loob ng, like may coral siya, ang dami, may mga seaweeds, may mga ganon silang design.
Oo.
Napaka-creative, creative. At yung, booth ng
sisilipin
Brooks
nga natin.
Point.
Oo, yung mga booth na yan, sige, silipin nga natin, engineer, yung
Ayan.
mga booth nila, baka maipakita natin. At least, magkaroon ng idea. Pero alam ko, pinapakita na rin ni Kasamang Goody ng mga nakaraan, yung tungkol dun sa, yung kanilang mga booth. Pero napaka-creative nga, nung kanilang booth. At saka, pati yung kanilang mga float, actually, nung nagkaroon ng float parade, nung 12. Diba?
Ayan,
Nakita mo din
napakaganda
yun.
nga nun kasamang Lyzl. Nanood tayo dyan.
Oo.
Nandyan tayo. Ayan. Bibigyan natin
ito
sila
yung
ng
mga
update kasamang Lyzl doon. Speaking of float, yun doon po nanalo sa ating mainland category. Yung bayan po ng Quezon yung nanalo. Ayan. Tuwang-tuwa ko
okay.
doon kasamang Lyzl dahil napaka-creative nga nun. At alam mo ba, maliban doon sa face nung, di ba, pag nasa front ka, ito yung makikita mong view, yung parang mukha. So, nasa taas ng mukha na yon, meron yung gumugulong, umiikot na manunggol jar. Ginawa
okay.
nila.
Oo.
Tapos, sa likod nun, meron siyang malaking, kala mo,
Sila yung
kuweba.
nanalo, si Quezon?
Sa mainland category. May
Okay.
malaking kuweba. Tapos, pinakalikod niya, nandoon yung, ginaya nila yung structure ng National Museum of the Philippines, Tabon Cave Complex.
okay.
Napakaganda kasamang Lyzl.
Yung kanilang float ito, o yung kanilang
Yung kanilang float.
Ayan,
Ayan.
hinahanap ko yung
Nag-champion
float nila
sila.
dito tawag dito. Municipality of, ayan. So, champion ang
Quezon,
Palawan.
Ayan.
Congratulations
First
sa
runner-up
Quezon.
yung
Sa mainland.
Taytay. Yes, sa mainland category. First runner-up naman yung Taytay.
Oh.
Yung Taytay yung may design na duck.
Oo. Yun
Yun.
pala yung sa kanila. Ito yung may duck. Ano daw ba itong
Yes.
itik na ito?
Ayan yung itik na yun. Sabi nila kasamang Lyzl, isa rin daw yun doon sa mga attraction nila at marami
Oo.
daw yung itik dyan sa Taytay. Hindi ko lang
Taytay.
sure kung saang part.
Oo.
Baka sa Lake Manguaw siguro to kasamang Lyzl dahil
Pwede.
maraming
Ayun.
ano doon eh.
So, first runner-up ang Taytay.
Yes, first runner-up ang Taytay. At second
Okay.
runner-up naman po, yung bayan ng Rizal. Yung bayan ng Rizal, yung may tao na nakaganon.
Yung
Ganun
may
siya.
tao. Ito
Mhm.
ba yun? Ay, hindi. Ano
Hindi
to
yan kasama
abola
ni
nito
Zel.
Etong isa ay Coron.
Yan Rojas.
Rojas. Ito yung sa
Nara.
Nara. And then yung sa
Dumaran.
Dumaran. Ito ay Brooks Point. Ay, in fairness, magaganda si Araceli.
Yes,
Nakita ko din to
Araceli.
nung malapitan Ang makulay din siya.
Totoo.
Ayan. Ito kay Balaba.
Napaka-creative nila. Ayan yung nilapakan. Yan yung nanalo sa
Island
category naman.
Ay, congratulations sa linapakan kila Mayor Emil Neri.
Yes.
Ayan, congratulations po sa inyo. Napakaganda ng inyong
Yan,
set.
yung bayan ng Rizal.
Ito yung sa Rizal. Maganda nga din ito. Ayan.
Yes.
Nakita ko ito nung papunta ako dun sa may Liwasang Rizal para i-cover yung ating Independence Day celebration.
Yes.
Ano? So, ito po, maganda nga din talaga. Tapos may katutubo talaga silang
Yes,
kasama.
totoo. Yun yung
Diba?
nakaka-inspire din doon kasamang Lyzl. At maliban yan kasamang Lyzl, yung Araceli kanina, yung,
yung
isda.
makulay,
Nakalimutan
oo.
ko kung anong tawag doon sa isda na yun.
Ayan, no? Yung isda.
Ayan. Gumagalaw yan kasamang Lyzl, gumaganon siya.
Ito ba yung matinik na isda?
Nakalimutan ko anong tawag.
Lionfish? Talaga? Lionfish pala ito.
Lionfish
Sa
daw.
Tagalog,
Ano sa Tagalog
kaya
yan,
to?
engineer?
O, wag na nating isipin, basta lionfish yan. Ayan.
Ayan.
So, ang ganda po. Ang ganda talaga ng kanilang mga float. At saka, gusto ko rin pong i-comment, ang ganda din ng kanilang mga muse. Ayan.
Yes.
Isa doon sa mga naalala ko yung muse ng El Nido kasi nakita ko siya. No? Sabi ko, ang ganda ng muse nila. Tapos nakita ko yung muse ng iba. Ay, maganda din. So, maganda silang lahat.
Magaganda talaga ang mga palawen niya kasama
Ay,
Lyzl.
oo, totoo yan. Ako, talaga. At saka, alam mo, ito pang isang magandang, nakakatuwa din kasi first time po na nai-celebrate ng ating syudad, ng ating lungsod, ng Puerto Princesa, at saka ng province, ng sabay, at
Yes.
magkasama, yung Independence Day celebration po natin, yung 128th
28th.
Independence Day celebration po natin. So, nandoon din po yung ating mga ng mga munisipyo Kasi pagkatapos noon, ayan, eto po yun yung sa Independence Day celebration po natin. So, kita po natin diyan si Mayor Lyzl Pilapil, katabi niya
Yes.
po si Governor
Amy Roa Alvarez.
Amy Alvarez, diba? Kasama nila ito sa Western Command naman to, si, kung tama ang pagkakaan, si Commodore Maverick. Siya yung nag-represent doon kay tawag dito sa ating Westcom Commander na si tawag dito si Vice Admiral Alan Javier. Ayan, ang dami kasi nilang yung kanilang yung kanilang rango, medyo nakakalimutan ko pag So ayan, tapos ito po makikita din po natin kasama din po diyan yung mga namumuno po sa mga munisipyo. So kita po natin from Brooks Point si Mayor Benedito, tapos yung iba pong mga mayor, actually madami sila dyan
Yes, napakarami nila kasamang Lyzl.
Ayan, dito sa kabila naman
Bago
from
sila mag-parade
Nara.
niyan kasamang Lyzl, dyan
Yan.
muna sila talaga.
Dito muna
Celebrate
sila.
muna nila.
Oo, ayun po. So, ang ganda po, kasi ang dami po ng mga alkalde natin. Ito yata, sana ba yung alkalde natin ng Rojas? Ayan. At yung mga, magkakasama, yung mga alkalde ng bayan ng iba't ibang bayan,
At
mga
maging
vice
sa
mayor,
lungsod ng
at
Puerto
yung sa lungsod,
Princesa.
diba?
Yung ating mga councilors.
Ang ganda nila tingnan, and also yung ating mga tawag dito, congressman at woman. Ayan po, nandoon din po sila, naka-attend din po sila niyan. So maganda
Ayan,
po,
sina
pagdiriwang.
board.
Oo, sina board member at saka ayan, mga board members po natin sa ating tawag dito, sa ating probinsya. At saka ito naman yung mga natin, yung ilang mga councilors natin. Ayan sila, no? Councilor Matthew Mendoza at yung iba pa. Ayan, so maraming kaganapan itong nakalipas na mga araw. Tapos
Yes.
pagkatapos po niyan, nag-proceed na po sila doon sa parade.
Parade.
Oo.
Nakakatuwa kasama ni Lyzl dahil hindi lang yung ating 23 municipalities yung naging highlight ng ating event. Dahil nakiisa rin talaga yung ating mga business sectors.
Oo.
Nandoon din yung ating mga youth, yung mga organizations. Nandoon din yung
Tama.
ating mga NGOs. At nandoon din yung ating national government kasamang Lyzl. Ayan,
Yeah.
yung mga offices under the national government. Nakiisa rin po sila dyan sa ating parada ng mga Palawenyo.
Oo, nakita din natin dyan sa Water District, sila JB,
yes.
JB Wanich and others. Ang dami, actually, ang dami pong nakiisa. Ayan po, no, yung ating si Governor Ami Alvarez, kasama po si Pinoy
Workers Party
Ayan po,
List.
party
Ayan,
list,
si Congressman Carl Legaspi.
Kompleto sila, di ba?
Yes.
Kompleto pala yung 4 na kongresista po natin dito sa
Nandiyan din si
lalawigan.
Mami Rose.
Oh,
yes.
oo,
Nakita ko siya
nandito rin
nagparade.
siya. Actually, nandito rin siya. Nakita ko siya pero wala lang siya dito sa picture na ito
Yes.
para kumpleto na sana. Sabi ko, kumpleto sila 4, pero siya nga pala yung kulang dito. Pero
Yes.
nandun siya, kasama
Nandun
siya doon.
Nakita ko rin siya nagparade kasama ni
Oo,
Lyzl.
at nakiisa din po doon sa celebration ng ating Independence Day. So,
Yes.
ang saya, no? Sana po laging
Totoo.
ganyan, laging ganito sana dito sa atin, sa lungsod ng Puerto Princesa at Palawan, na may pagkakaisa po yung lungsod at saka po yung Palawan. Kasi dati naman talaga, isa naman sila eh.
Totoo. Bago
Diba?
pa naging highly urbanized city yung Puerto Princesa.
Yeah,
Ayan,
dapat
kasama ni Lyzl,
Ang
natatandaan ko, napakapasabog din talaga nung kanilang grand opening. Dahil
Ay,
meron nga
oo.
silang pa-concert nitong ating sex bomb.
Ay,
At nandun
nanood
din
ka,
si
diba?
Nicole Yala. Hindi ako nanood kasamang Lyzl dahil hindi kinaya ng powers ko nung umaga.
Oo.
At ayaw din ng aking mother na makipagsiksikan dahil kasama ni Lyzl, sobrang punong-punong-puno yung ating Ramon V. Mitra Sports Complex
Ay,
nung
ganun
araw
ba?
na yun. Sa
Talagang
live na
ang
lang ako
daming-
nanood kasamang Lyzl.
Ang daming tito at tita pala
Yes.
talaga dito ngayon. Nandun ka, engineer? Ang daming
Nandun.
tito at tita ha. Yung mga talaga, mga nakilahok talaga doon sa,
Yes.
na yan, sa gawain po. Sa gawain
Sa
talaga.
gawain.
Sa party.
Napakalalim
Ayan.
nun.
Visayas,
Sa gawain. Pakiramdam ko kasi politiko ko. Minsan parang di ba, kailangan medyo maging malalim. But anyways, ayan. Ang dami, nag-attend ng concert na yun. Tapos pagkatapos
Yes.
noon, ano pa yung mga sumunod na activities natin? Ang dami,
Himiglikha
no?
kasamang Lyzl.
Ha?
Himiglikha. Songwriting
Himiglikha.
competition.
Ayan.
Ayan, nanalo dyan. Ng second runner-up, yung ating laging piniplay dito na artist.
Panalo
Si Jimuel
siya.
Abordo.
Congratulations. Sino yung top?
Ayan. First runner-up naman si Tresha Painandos. At yung champion, yung title ng kanyang kanta kasamang Lyzl ay Comeback Syndrome.
Comeback
Ayan.
Syndrome. Ay, nako.
Ayan. Si
Ayan,
Sir Ray
congratulations.
Abrea ang nag-champion mula po dito sa Puerto Princesa City.
Ay, meron tayong Malacanang press briefing.
Vladimir Putin of the Russian Federation. The meeting will bring together the leaders of ASEAN and Russia to commemorate 35 years of dialogue relations and to chart the future direction of this partnership. The ASEAN-Russia Commemorative Summit holds particular significance for the Philippines. It will mark President Marcos's first visit to the Russian Federation as president. Set in the midst of the 50 years of diplomatic relations this year between the Philippines and Russia. During the summit, ASEAN leaders and President Putin are expected to review the progress of ASEAN-Russia strategic partnership and discuss ways to further strengthen cooperation in areas of mutual trust, particularly on biosafety and biosecurity, outer space and satellite applications, energy and food security, science and technology, trade and investment, tourism, education, and people-to-people exchanges. The summit is likewise expected to adopt several key outcome documents. These will guide ASEAN-Russia cooperation in the years ahead. These include the Kazan Declaration 2026, which will articulate the shared vision of ASEAN and Russia as we commemorate 35 years of partnership, as well as joint statements on energy and on cultural cooperation. The leaders are also expected to adopt the ASEAN-Russia Comprehensive Plan of Action 2026-2030, which will serve as the principal roadmap for advancing cooperation across the political security, economic, and socio-cultural pillars of the partnership. On the margins of the summit, the President will also hold a bilateral meeting with President Putin. The discussions will center on the commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the establishment of the diplomatic relations between the Philippines and Russia. The meeting will likewise provide an opportunity to explore ways to further strengthen cooperation in areas of mutual interest, particularly energy security and food security. As ASEAN Chair, the Philippines remains committed to strengthening ASEAN's external relations, ensuring that the region's engagement with partners continue to advance ASEAN centrality. And as Chair, the Philippines continues to carry this responsibility, ensuring that the summit yields meaningful and forward-looking outcomes for our peoples. Thank you. I'm now ready to answer your questions.
First question mula kay Gabriel Villegas, PTV4.
ASEC, magandang hapon po. Nabanggit po ninyo na magkakaroon po ng bilateral meeting between President Marcos and President Putin. So ano po yung tatlong priority issues na ilalatag po ng Pilipinas during the bilateral meeting, and also what assurances, kung meron man po, na maibibigay ang DFA with our Western partners regarding the nature of the engagement with President Putin?
Yeah, thank you for that question on the priorities. Of course, I already mentioned earlier, the meeting will most likely focus on food security and energy security. That is mutually important for both countries, for the Philippines and Russia. And they will also discuss, among others, some very important regional international issues that both would consider important for the relationship. And again, I would go back to the impact of the Middle East on energy security and food security. So I think that would be the highlight of this meeting. Of course, looking also into the deepening of the relations between Russia and the Philippines when it comes to other cooperation. Of course, we're looking at people-to-people, tourism, education, cultural cooperation, those things, especially also on science and technology. So these areas will be discussed or will play a part in the bilateral meeting between the two leaders.
Follow-up po, meron po ba tayong explicit negotiations or memorandum of understanding na nakatakda pong lagdaan when it comes with oil, fuel diversification, or when it comes with nuclear or renewable energy cooperation?
Well, I do not want to preempt the results of this bilateral meeting as well as the summit. But of course, what's important is both leaders will be able to sit down and discuss these priority areas, and we'll see. It will be good for some outcome document to come out of this meeting in Kazan.
Okay po, thank you po.
Next question from Harley Balbuena, ABC 13.
Hi, good afternoon. Sir, even though the Philippines or any of the ASEAN countries is not an involved party in the Russia-Ukraine war, is the ASEAN expected to issue a joint stance or directly raise their shared views with Russian President Vladimir Putin regarding the ongoing conflict?
So regarding the outcome documents that will come out of the summit, certainly we're just focusing on areas of cooperation. So I already mentioned those on energy security, on food security, as well as highlighting the 35 years of relationship between ASEAN and Russia. So there won't be any statement or declaration when it comes to Ukraine. I won't be able to also guess or preempt what the other leaders will be raising during the summit. So, but what I can share with you is that there will be discussions on regional and international issues during the summit.
So, sir, just to clarify, we do not expect the Russia-Ukraine war to be discussed during the ASEAN-Russia commemorative summit.
It's hard to say whether that issue will be discussed because after all, as a summit, we see the leaders coming together, they'll be sitting down. So, but as regards an outcome document, certainly there won't be any.
Next question from Katrina Domingo, ABS-CBN.
Good afternoon, Sir, why did the Philippines decide to forge closer ties with Russia at a time when other like-minded nations such as the United States, the European Union, as well as Singapore have been imposing sanctions on certain sectors of the Russian Federation?
Well, actually, to answer your question on that, ever since the Philippines and Russia, they've had a very good relations way back. In fact, we're looking at 50 years. And that commemoration was celebrated back on June 2nd. And when it comes to the ASEAN Summit commemorative engagement in Kazan, we're actually looking at a more broader way of looking at the relationship between Russia and ASEAN. And since the Philippines is the chair, and it just so happened that the commemoration of the summit is during the Philippines chairship, we take a leadership role in leading that. And with the president co-chairing this commemorative summit in Kazan, we of course would like to bring here the interests of the Philippines and also of ASEAN together. So we're looking at, of course, it's a 35 years of celebration of the relations. So we're looking at pursuing the interests across all the three pillars, so political security, economic, and social cultural. So these are areas of cooperation where the Philippines actually benefits, as well as the region. So also taking into consideration that Russia has long been for years a dialogue partner of ASEAN. So with that role, the Philippines as chair, it is our role to be able to pursue these external relations with our dialogue partners.
One member of ASEAN, Singapore in particular, imposed sanctions against Russian technology as well as weapons, as well as dual-use goods. How will these sanctions affect the comprehensive plan of action for 2026 to 2030?
The good thing about the comprehensive plan of action is that there are negotiations here, and there are discussions not only among ASEAN but with Russia as a dialogue partner. And the reason why it's a good thing that we are able to sit down together with Russia is because we are able to discuss whatever issues we have with them. The only good thing about this is once it's adopted, we are assured that there's commitment among all the parties, including Russia, that we will be able to move forward with whatever that has been discussed under this plan of action.
And finally, from my answer, how is the Philippines bracing for possible criticisms from the European Union, from the United States, as well as Singapore itself, of virtually funding Russia's war with Ukraine because of these new ties, trade ties, as well as investment ties that we have been trying to forge with Moscow?
I think to answer your question, let us look at it in a different perspective. Of course, first, as I already mentioned, Russia is a dialogue partner of ASEAN, and so there is that already an acceptance among other countries that we will continue to pursue, guided by ASEAN centrality. We will continue to pursue our relations with each dialogue partner, including Russia, and also taking into consideration the broader perspective of looking at it in such a way that each country would have, of course, their own national interest, and so it is their prerogative to for them to decide on whether they would like to pursue something with Russia or not pursue with Russia. And so, again, going back to ASEAN-Russia relations, there is a collective support. We do not see any impediment there, even with, as you mentioned, with Singapore, because after all, Singapore is part of ASEAN, and as far as we are concerned, this relations is, the relations between ASEAN and Russia are just, it's moving forward.
Thank you. Next question from Rafi Ayeng, Daily Tribune.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. Are all Asian ASEAN leaders present in the meeting?
So yes, what we received regarding this information is that all the leaders of ASEAN will be represented there.
And how beneficial is Russia to the regional bloc, and what are the benefits that we can reap, the Philippines, from Russia? Because in terms of people to people, we have a little number of OFWs working there, just roughly 10,000?
Yes. So, looking at the benefits of this relationship through the lens of our kababayans in Russia, I understand there are about 15,000 Filipinos in Russia, and most of them they are in the service sector. Although we understand there are also engineers and teachers in Russia. And because of our relations with Russia, there are, professors, students, or researchers, even artists, exchanges through the cooperation on culture or on education. So, looking proper respect because of our relations with Russia, and expanding this to look at the three pillars of cooperation under ASEAN. For example, in under the political security, if we just look at, let's say, our cooperation with Russia on transnational crime, also on counterterrorism, these cooperation initiatives are very important not only for our kababayans but also here in the region, because that helps us. We are able to learn more, or we are able to cooperate more in this endeavor. So this is just one area, but certainly I mentioned there are three pillars, and there are a lot of areas there that is being covered.
And lastly, do we have a number of Filipinos being embroiled in some cases in Russia na kailangan nating protektahan?
I am not aware at the moment of that, but certainly that's something that we can check.
Next question from Jonah Gilagon, the Asahi Shimbun.
Hi, good afternoon, sir. Meetings between ASEAN and Russia are usually held online. When was the last time that you had a face-to-face meeting?
I understand you're referring to the time when this was during the COVID-19 pandemic. I understand it was during the time that there was a meeting, and it was then President Rodrigo Duterte. He attended online. So I think that was what you were referring to. I understand this was a special meeting because it talks about, and it discussed about the response to COVID-19. I believe after that, this would be the first time again that there will be an in-person engagement among the leaders between ASEAN and Russia.
So bale 6 years na, sir? Okay. And then earlier you mentioned that all leaders will be represented in the ASEAN-Russia meeting. So who will be representing Myanmar?
Right. So for Myanmar, it will still be the permanent secretary and the SOM leader of Myanmar.
And then during the Duterte administration, sir, we had a pivot toward Russia because then President Duterte was not very fond of the U.S. Since that pivot that we had, how much improvement in terms of economics, or trade and business, how much has it grown since then? How investments that they poured into the Philippines?
So in terms of trade, I think our colleagues from DTI would be able to provide more details on this. But in terms of trade, bilaterally between the Philippines and Russia, my understanding is we have a very decent bilateral trade between the two countries. Of course, we do note that sometimes these economic engagements are also pursued between the businesses, the private sector. So in that regard, while there is still room for us to improve on the bilateral trade area between the two countries, I can say that it is there. But certainly, perhaps through our continued engagement with Russia under different mechanisms, whether it's bilateral or regional or even multilateral, we will be able to pursue more.
But was there an increase in terms of trade and maybe tourism?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned tourism because I think based on our 2024 data, I think we received more than 30,000 visitors from Russia as compared to below 30 previously.
How When you say previously, how many years ago?
I think that would be the highest. 30,000 in 2024 would be the highest recorded number of visits. But prior to that, the succeeding years prior to that, we saw an increasing trend actually.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next question from Maricel Halili, TV5.
Hi, good afternoon, sir. Sir, who will be joining the president in this trip?
Of course, Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Maria Teresa Pilazar will be there, and the DFA will be represented. I understand there will also be a very small delegation from DTI because there is a focus on the economic engagement and trade in this summit, and but it's going to be a very small delegation.
So from DFA and DTI. Okay, sir, why should ordinary Filipinos be interested in this trip? Bakit dapat may pakialam sila?
Well, first of all, actually there are several ways that if we are going to look at this summit in different angles, there are several ways. So on the political security level, we're looking at several ways that ASEAN and Russia are cooperating. I already mentioned earlier yung counterterrorism and transnational crime. I think that's very important. I think ordinary Filipinos, yung ating mga kababayan should be able to understand that these engagements with Russia, it's very helpful for us, not only the region but the Philippines, because this is where we are able to get capacity building or training, which is very important for our law enforcement agencies to uphold the law, and also for our legal experts to be able to find ways to be able to address the emerging challenges in addressing these crimes, transnational crime and counterterrorism. That's one. And then there's also the problem on illicit drugs. Very important also for the country. We need to be able to address this. Again, there are so many ways that the perpetrators are able to evade or to be able to go around our domestic laws. But through these engagements, we are able to, again, get training, we are able to get information sharing that will be very important for the country to be able to address these problems. I'm also looking at, because as you know, under the social cultural pillar of this relationship, there are so many areas. We're looking at, for example, on climate change, also on health, and also on disaster management. So these are areas where we can get more support to address these areas. And climate change, the impact of that's very important para sa ating lahat, sa ating mga kababayan. And so being able to get support in this regard will be helpful not only for the region but for the many people around us.
Thank you.
Next question from Catrina Domingo, ABS-CBN.
Hi again, sir. Sir, Indonesia, Singapore, and Vietnam all have free trade agreements with the Eurasian Economic Union. What's hindering the Philippines from also pursuing an FTA?
I'm not aware of us pursuing an FTA. I think the DTI would be in a better position to answer that. But for this summit, what I understand is there will be a commitment, or we would like to get a commitment for ASEAN and also the SCO to be able to coordinate more in such a way that they will be able to find ways to move forward with our mutual interests on trade, on the economy, digitalization, including other areas such as I mentioned earlier yung transnational crime, counterterrorism. So those areas, very important. They can all fall into that mechanism, but it's in the very early stages, and but we would like to see moving forward from there.
Sir, kanina you mentioned po na energy,
including cooperation on nuclear energy. In fact, if to even go beyond nuclear energy, even the civilian uses of nuclear energy might be some of the areas of discussions during this this summit and also the bilateral meeting between the President and President Putin. And also, of course, again, we also would like to push support for the APSA, the ASEAN Framework Agreement on petroleum security, also the ASEAN Power Grid. So those already existing mechanisms that we have, those might also be discussed, getting support for those, for us to be able to continue with our purpose to be able to become resilient.
Sir, are we also looking at importation deals with Russia as the Philippines tries to diversify its sources of oil given the Hormuz situation?
I may not be able to give you a yes or no answer to that, but when it comes to these bilateral meetings and also this summit, these discussions come up. So we shall see. Let's see what is going to happen after the summit and also the meeting.
Okay, next question from Harley Valbuena, IBC 13.
Sir, you already mentioned the APSA. So does the ASEAN see Russia as a country that can help or assist in establishing the ASEAN regional oil stockpile that was announced during the ASEAN summit in Cebu?
Yeah, so on the stockpiling, it's still under study. But ASEAN is welcome, of course, to accept support from its dialogue partners, which would include Russia.
Okay. Ian Cruz from GMA 7.
Hi, sir. Sir, you mentioned SFA and DTI joining the President. What about DND? Kasi a permanent member po ng UN Security Council ang Russia. Bakit wala po tayong delegation ng defense natin?
Yeah, for this summit, the focus will really be on the ASEAN-Russia commemorative summit and then the relations, 35 years of its relations. And there will also be discussions focused mainly on business. There will be a business forum, and there will also be discussions on how the Eurasian Economic Union and ASEAN would be able to further economic engagement. So as you can see from there, the focus really would be more on those areas. And I think that's the reason why DND is not represented here.
Okay, thank you, Malacanang Press Corps. ASEC Dax. May follow-up question from Rafi Aying, Daily Tribune.
Sir, hingin ko na lang rin on other matters in connection with the question of Ian. May we know the comment of the DFA on the decision of China for imposing sanctions against Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro? And does this gives a negative impact? Because some are saying that for China to declare persona non grata an official under the office of the president, especially the defense secretary, will put the country's ties in bad light.
Well, I think your question on that, I would like to focus our discussion on the ASEAN-Russia commemorative summit. But just very briefly, I would reiterate what the Secretary has already said about that. So I'll put it there. Thank you.
Okay. No more questions, Malacanang Press Corps. Thank you. From Alvin Baltasar, Radyo Pilipinas.
Sa gabo lang, gaano ka-tight yung schedule ng Pangulo since parang isang araw lang yata yung full activity niya? And meron bang business meetings ang Pangulo?
I'm not aware of, so there will be a business forum, and of course that's open to all the ASEAN leaders. And then of course there's going to be a bilateral meeting between the President and President Putin. And then there will also be a gala dinner for the leaders. And then for the commemorative summit, there will be the plenary, of course, where all the leaders will be sitting down and then discussing the agenda for the summit, after which there will also be a sort of working lunch that is being arranged. And after that, there will be I understand there's going to be a press con, a joint press con.
Since kasama sa agenda ng Pangulo at ni President Putin yung energy security, is it possible na mapag-usapan sa meeting na maging long-term source na ng Pilipinas ang Russia when it comes to oil supply?
I won't be able to predict what the two leaders will be discussing, but since as you said, since the focus will be on energy security, of course, anything can be discussed under that area of or agenda during the meeting of the two leaders.
Thank you, Pasek.
No more questions? Okay. ASIC Dax, you might have a closing statement before we end this press briefing.
Thank you so much. I'll just be very brief on my closing, which is, again, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat for covering. And we are very eager and also excited about what's going to happen at the summit in Kazan, only because it's not only is it the 35th anniversary of ASEAN-Russian relations, but there will also be a bilateral meeting between the President and President Putin. So we hope that there will be a productive discussion and outcomes. We're actually looking for concrete outcomes to come out of this summit, and so we shall see once the summit is done. We will be happy again to give perhaps a report on that afterwards. Thank you.
Ito ang WMR Radyo Pilipinas, Palawan, 648 sa AM. On Twitter at Radyo Pilipinas 1 and like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Radyo Pilipinas 1. Together, let's dismiss disinformation. Radyo Pilipinas 738 AM.
Philippine Standard Time 1:54.